What's up, guys? Welcome to Among the Fence. My name is Aaron, and today I'm going to be doing a review on the new album Scoring the End of the World by the band Motionless in White. Scoring the End of the World is a sixth studio album release from the gothic metalcore Pennsylvania native band since about 2005, and I gotta admit, I've never really been that into Motionless in White. In fact, I actively disliked them until I was in an internet discussion where somebody pointed out a few songs that I might like, and since then I've kind of warmed up to them a little bit, but I still don't really like their gimmick, and their industrial influences just don't sit that well with me. Most of the time they tend to kind of come off as like a Marilyn Manson cover band when you mix the two of them together, and I'm really hoping that they bring something new to this album, something that stands out a little bit more to me. I've been more of a fan of their older style stuff as opposed to their new style stuff, but still, I mean, they could still bring the heaviness that the old stuff used to have compared to the new stuff. The album opens up with the song Meltdown, which is basically about people watching the world burn and not really caring. The lyrics are hit or miss, from being mildly creative to more on the cringy side, and the music is like industrial rave. I'm not even sure if that's a genre, but that's what it sounds like to me. And the vocal effects, they're just kind of, I don't know, I didn't care for them that much. The chorus is probably one of the more creative parts of the song, and it has a decent hook. The sound bites, specifically at the end of verse 2, are just awful, but the breakdown is pretty legit, and the vocals during it are very nasty. Then we have the second song, Signs of Life, which is about Chris's struggle with depression, and it comes in heavy with some dissonance, but it becomes just vocals and drums in the verse. The chorus is huge with one of my favorite lines saying, "Where numbness and pain are synchronized," which is a really cool way of looking at it. I'm not really a fan of the vocal delivery throughout the verses, but I mean, overall, the whole song works. I'm going to jump ahead to two of my favorite songs on the album. The first one is Burned at Both Ends 2, which is the sequel to the song of the same name off of 2012's album Infamous, which is actually probably my favorite album that they have. But this is a different point of view. This is actually looking at how far Chris has come since that song, which is 10 years ago, and the drums and the vocals and the cadence just work so well, and the pre-chorus is very heavy, and it builds into this fantastic riff that segues beautifully into the chorus, and the lyrics are very well written, even by Motionless in White standards. I enjoyed the lyrics quite a bit. You could tell they're very heartfelt, and he actually sat down and took time to look at how far he's come since the original song came out, and the bridge hits equally as hard. And then another favorite comes directly after it, which is B.F.B.T.G. Corpse Nation, which is kind of like the second installment of the series of Broadcasting from Beyond the Grave. The first one was titled Death Inc., and this one's about people who spread misinformation, which is a very popular thing going on right now. And the intro is pretty cool, and it fits the kind of episode themed thing going on. The lullaby melody mixed with the creepy vocals is pretty creepy. The aggression comes out in the verses, though. I thought this was going to be a little bit more laid back song, but it comes in pretty heavy. It reminds me of something that Ice Nine Kills would do, especially in the chorus, and the breakdown is just super gnarly with blast beats and triplets. It's a song that it progressed in a way that I didn't think it would, and I loved it. Another song that kind of reminded me of something that Ice Nine Kills would do is Werewolf, which is, to them, it was more of an attempt at like a throwback to old school Motionless in White sound with like a Michael Jackson Muse influence thing going on. But yeah, to me, it was more Ice Nine Kills. It has like this 80s synth beat, which sounds pretty good, and the lyrics are good, and the chorus is pretty catchy, while the music is simple yet creepy. I did hear a little bit of Michael Jackson's Thriller kind of vibe to it, but it wasn't that significant. And then we have the next song, Porcelain, which is, it's the other side of Chris, where we have the werewolf, where he's angry and aggressive and can't really control himself, but we also have the more sensitive side, the more porcelain side of the guy. It's very theatrical, kind of starts out in a Nightmare Before Christmas kind of way. The chorus is definitely more Breaking Benjamin inspired. It's not bad, but Breaking Benjamin is basically all I heard when I was listening to this song. And now we have one of the more awkward songs on this album, which is Slaughterhouse, which features Brian Garris from Knocked Loose. And I'll explain why it's awkward in just a little bit. I mean, Brian Garris doesn't waste any time making his presence known in the intro, and Chris's vocals, just his, I don't, I'm not sure what it was, but they just didn't sit too well in the song compared to Brian's. Like he tried to have the same energy and intensity, and it just didn't really work all that well for me. Like it didn't really match it. But the two definitely sound great in the chorus. It does sound a bit awkward though as it transitions from like these really heavy moments with Brian back to the more calm chorus, especially after the chaotic bridge, and then it goes into like one of the most brutal moments on the album. It just, I don't know, it's kind of weird, but that's not what's awkward about this song. What's awkward about it is that it sits between Porcelain, which is very melodramatic, and the equally melodramatic Masterpiece, which is like, I don't know, it's just a very awkward thing to have this super intense song between these two gentle, giant-y kind of songs. Like you're all pumped up and you're ready to go and the album's taken off again, and then it just kind of lulls you back to sleep with like another Breaking Benjamin inspired song. It's not a bad song, it's just weird and confusing song placement and timing for it. Like the bridge definitely gets aggressive in the song. You're thinking it's going to build up, but then it just drops right back down into being just this really quiet, gentle thing. And I don't know. It just, the song placement of it was just, it was just weird to me. I didn't really understand it. It felt like they just slapped this thing right in the middle because they didn't have anywhere else to put it. There's a lot of part twos to this song where it seems like a lot of songs are connected to just one other song, but like not the entire album's connected to itself, if that makes sense. For instance, The Cause of Death is like the second part to the second song, Signs of Life, where he was looking for hope in Signs of Life, and now it's the other side of Chris again, the werewolf side, where he's kind of more in a negative head state and he just doesn't care and he hates everything and there is no hope. And the vocals are very snarling, like an inner demon kind of thing, and the chorus has some good metaphors to it. But I mean, the song isn't much more than that. The orchestration in the verses sound really good, but this wasn't a very memorable song for me. And then we have the song We Become the Night, which is about the horrible state of the world it's in, but instead this song is dedicated to the good people out there that still stand up for what's right, which is honestly, it's a nice change of pace, because more often than not, especially in these trying times, most bands and artists are releasing songs just talking about how horrible the state of the world's in and everybody's just so nasty. But Chris takes time to actually look at the positive and be like, you know, there are still a lot, like majority of the people in this world, regardless of how they are on social media, they're actually all still pretty good people. Just however the vocals feel like they're like I don't know, they're like Marilyn Manson-esque, but not to that extent, especially in the verses. And the choruses are kind of like the same as the other songs. It just doesn't really stand out. It was a very bland chorus. It feels like at this point he's just kind of doing the same thing over and over again, and it's even worse in the song because it felt like he didn't know like what else to do. Maybe Cyberhex is basically a love letter to fans. It's got a heavy riff with some syncopation and kind of like a video game melody and riff in the verse. I enjoyed the song quite a bit. The vocal performance is pretty good with the words being long and drawn out, kind of over enunciated, which I liked a lot. It kind of has like a Korn vibe to it though. Like the bridge is sort of silly, but you can't deny how good it is and how good it goes into the breakdown. And then we have the song Red, White, and Boom, which features Caleb Shomo in the bridge and in the final chorus. And this is another one of those songs that's talking about the state of the world, but now it's a little bit more on the angry side. The verse is kind of weird. The vocals have like this high frequency buzzing melody thing playing behind them. It just doesn't really work for me that well. The chorus is basically just a copy of Marilyn Manson's The Beautiful People chorus, and I just can't get it out of my head. And the more I listen to this song, the more I wanted to listen to The Beautiful People instead, because I liked it so much more. The pre-chorus is pretty heavy though. When Caleb shows up, it's just, it changes the song quite a bit. It sounds really good, specifically just like the back half of the song, but still, it isn't really enough to save it for me. And if you guys wanted a part 2 song of people doing the right thing, we got another one with the closing track, Scoring the End of the World, which is basically just another tribute to people doing the right thing. It has like this video game synth kind of feel in the intro, and there's a lot of vocal variations, which sound pretty good to me in the verses, and the chorus was just, it was all right. It has a decent hook, but overall I felt like this song was probably the weakest out of all of them. It's very generic. There's nothing that really stood out to me whatsoever. I didn't hate it, and it's an all right closing track, but it's just for a title track song and a closing, it just, I don't know, it fell flat. This is the only song that just didn't do it at all at any moment for me. I liked this album a lot more than I thought I would. In fact, I didn't think I was going to like this album at all. Like, the music was decent. The production was really crisp. When it needed to get gritty, it did. And when it needed to clean up, it cleaned up very nicely. The vocals have some cool moments, even though I didn't always care for them and what they did. I mean, even down to the vocal effects, I wasn't really that big of a fan of it. And not to mention, this album is fairly long. I mean, it's 13 songs, but it doesn't feel super bloated. When I was listening to it, I wasn't sitting there tapping my foot waiting for it to end. It just felt right. The bad, though, is that there were only 3 songs that I actually enjoyed all the way through on this album. Other than that, I found everything to be like 50% boring, or just 50% it could have been done better, and 50%, entertaining. The track placements to me were always the best. In fact, they were pretty bad at times. Having Slaughterhouse between Porcelain and Masterpiece made me enjoy all 3 songs quite a bit less, just due to the awkwardness of the transitions to them. And it psychs you out. You're going down. The music is slowing down. The music's becoming more gentle, and then all of a sudden it goes completely chaos with the heaviest track on this album, which is actually a very good song. It might have been my favorite song if it wasn't for how just abruptly weird everything got. But again, this is like 100% my opinion, and this is something that I tend to have issues with just in general when it comes to track placement. So this is more just me nitpicking, and it's more of a me thing than anything else. I doubt anybody will really agree with that. And while I do find most of the songs to be kind of standard and not very original, I also got to admit that I didn't really dislike any songs. Even the title track song, it just kind of fell right in the middle for me. I didn't really dislike it or hate it. I could do without it for sure, but I mean, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever heard. So with all that said, I got to give Scoring The End of the World by Motionless in White a 6.1 out of 10. And this was also one of the harder albums I've had to rate, just because it was just so back and forth. There was stuff that I just thought was decent or all right, and then there was moments where I was like, this is really good. But it was never just a full song where I felt that way on either side. It was always just pieces of songs where I'm like, cool, the verse in this is sick. And then the chorus just, it isn't. It's just kind of there, or the other way around. So yeah, this one was definitely, it was a harder one for me. So I want to know what you guys think. Leave a comment below letting me know what you thought of Scoring in the End of the World, and let me know what you'd rate it. Let me know what your favorite song is as well. And while you're down there, also let me know what you want me to review next. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like. And if you want to help support me and my channel and just make me feel good about myself, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell icon, especially if you leave a request. Let me know what I should review next, that way you don't miss out on any of my future videos. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day or night, whenever you happen to be watching this, and I will talk to you guys next time.
I was trying to make it lying.